What it do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ. Today we back with another lit video. We back in the confessional, and yeah, we staying lit, big dog, man. Shout out to my everyday people who rock with me every day. Yep, thank y'all for keeping it lit. We got a nice, wonderful live video for y'all today. Remember, y'all can find me streaming on Twitch. You can find me streaming on Facebook. Make sure you follow me on Facebook, Everyday PJ. Follow me on Twitch, Everyday PJ. Thank you to all that have followed me on these platforms. This is where we're going to keep it lit, man. We got a nice, wonderful video for y'all today. A woman who was married at 28 and divorced at 29. We have Christine Elizabeth. She's a TikTok finance baddie. She goes by the finance baddie. And if you can see by this video, she ain't lying.
Who she says she is. Clean, cruelty-free, and non-toxic. And it keeps my skin hydrated, golden, and never greasy. Being single for the summer is never a bad thing. And with this Osea glow, I won't be single for long. This is your daily reminder to divorce the grease in your life.
You won't be single for long.
You're ready with me to get divorced after a year and a half. But best believe I'm glowing through it. One thing I'm not about to do is let anyone's narcissistic son ruin my peace. Will I get married again? Absolutely. Especially now that I've discovered Osea's and Daria algae body oil. Because I'll be glowing all summer long. Unlike my soon-to-be ex-husband, this body oil is exactly who she says she is. Clean, cruelty-free, and non-toxic. And it keeps my skin hydrated, golden, and never greasy. Being single for the summer is never a bad thing. And with this Osea glow, I won't be single for long. This is your daily reminder to divorce the grease in your life. Stay healthy and wealthy. You're ready with me to get...
Ooh, wait, that was like a... I don't know. I mean, that was she sold that. Let me buy some of that. Look at y'all talking about let me buy some of that. All right, let's get into the story. I'm not finna hold y'all.
Never grease. Being single. So why am I getting divorced after a year and a half? I got married at 28 and I'm 29 and I'm currently getting a divorce. And I owe it to you guys to explain to you why I'm getting a divorce, because over 10 million of you guys watched me get married last year across Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and a lot other wedding content that I put out. I'm a lifestyle creator, and so, you know, you're gonna see my life, the ups, the downs, all of it. It is just a part of the process. But the reason why I do want to share why I'm getting divorced is because I got married to a narcissist unknowingly, and it was all built upon a lie. And I started talking about this on Threads and on my Twitter account, and I shared some of that to my Instagram stories. And since sharing that, I've gotten hundreds of DMs from women who are in the same situation or who have been in that situation. And so many of them have told me, I'm so grateful that you've been talking about this and that you've been transparent about this, because I didn't have the strength to leave. Now that I'm seeing that you are leaving so soon as well, I'm now inspired to leave. I do want to talk about this specifically when it comes to the narcissistic abuse part, because you don't even realize it's happening to you while it's happening to you. For so many of us, we just didn't even know what was happening while it was happening. I'm going to share as much as I can. And I think it's also important for us to remember that there's a difference between narcissistic personality disorder and having narcissistic traits, okay? Those are two different things. So let's start from the beginning. So in 2020, I met my husband on Hinge, and I was living in New York City at the time, and I was working from home. I was working on Wall Street, and I was pretty isolated. Here comes my husband on Hinge, and he looks great, and he seems like a pretty decent guy, and he really sold himself as like this faith-based guy and like really serious with like really good intentions, and you know, I bought it. Now, he was going to be starting a job on Wall Street as well at a different firm. And I like the fact that he was already in the industry, so he understood my work schedule, because I really did have a demanding schedule. Again, very normal guy, seemingly decent guy. The relationship is good to start. Towards the end of 2020, I started to pick up on the fact that our values weren't really aligned. And especially when it came to faith, there were some things that weren't adding up, right? So I did let him know that, hey, I think we should break up. I think we should part ways, because, you know, we're just not aligned. Now, he accepted it at first, but then he kept trying to message me and get back with me and saying, you know, I really don't understand. I really miss us and all of that. And then he starts to mention the fact that there's a ring fund because, you know, he sees me as his future wife that he's already gained 14% on. And I remember saying to him, like, I'm sorry, what does that have to do with anything? And so that is an example of, I think it's called love bombing. I am somebody who had a narcissistic parent. So I grew up on gaslighting. I grew up on manipulation. I grew up on love bombing. So that feels familiar to me. I didn't really have the language for what exactly my soon-to-be ex-husband was doing at the time, but now that I do have the language for it, I see it for what it was, right? If you have broken up with somebody, they seemingly accept it, but then they're coming back and they're like, okay, but I have 14% on a ring fund, right? They're trying to like lure you back in, right? They're trying to talk about all these things that they do for you or what they're doing for you to try to lure you back in. Now, I was resistant to his efforts. At the beginning of 2021, I do start a new job, and that job is actually at the firm that he's working at in a different capacity, but we've been broken up. We're still cordial. Now, he's still trying to get back with me. He's inserting himself in a way that's friendly, but like also clearly like he regrets that, you know, we parted ways. Again, I'm focusing on my new job. I'm just focusing on like getting my life together. He does become a source of support for me as I'm in this new job because he's already familiar with this firm. He knows how to support people, and like he really is just a great friend to have. My birthday's in July, and yes, we're friends, we're not together, but he totally inserted himself into my birthday in a way that was like, you know, I'm her man, got me a cake and everything. And like, I appreciated all of those efforts because at the end of the day, like, it's great to have somebody who is looking out for you and all those things. But again, I wasn't cognizant of the fact that like boundaries were not in place, right? And this is something that you have to be very aware of as a young woman when you're dealing with these men. Like, if you have broken up with somebody, right, there is no reason why they should still be coming around in that capacity. And if they keep coming around under the guise of friendship, right, because they love and care about you deeply as a friend, you need to be very careful. Because I was very convinced that, okay, he keeps showing up and he's just around because, like, you know, he just cares deeply about me and he just wants to be the person that's there for me. Now, despite the fact that we're broken up, anybody who has shown any kind of interest in me, anyone who he knows is interested in me, he's creating obstacles for these people. He would want to spend like every waking moment of the weekend with me, and I just had zero space. This is another sign that you are dealing with a narcissist. They do not give you any space. Keep in mind, the job that I had at this time on Wall Street, I was working at the desk from 6:30 a.m. until roughly about like 6:30 p.m., right? So I'm 12 hours on the desk, Monday to Friday, and every waking minute of the weekend, he would want to spend time with me. I don't really like people like that. I like my space. I do believe that I am an introvert, and I really do need to recharge, especially when I'm in an office setting and when I'm around people for so long. Like, I need like to decompress, right? I'm blessed now that I work from home and I don't need to like recharge as much, but I really needed my space. Now it is fall of 2021, and he is really lobbying, really pushing that we get back together. And he's even convinced another one of my friends that he really loves me, he really sees a future with me, and, you know, for me to give him a chance. He's very, very, very convincing. Like, this man, he could sell you anything. He is really good. He puts on a great show. And even my friend is like, wow, like, I don't know any guy who's ever loved you this much. Like, this man he is so committed. And I'm like, yep, that is true. And I'm like, you know what? I'll give him a chance. We did get back together. So why am I getting divorced after a year and a half? I got married at 28, and at this point in my life, I wasn't really going out. I was just focused on myself. So if you weren't already in my immediate circle, if I didn't already know you, chances are we were not going to meet, because I went to work, I went home, I went to the gym, And I was just like focused on myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just where my head was at. Now, by December of 2021, he starts applying to some jobs in Florida because he says he wants to move back to Florida potentially. By January of 2022, he gets a job offer in Florida. And he also does get another job offer in New York, which in my opinion was more aligned with what he wanted to do career-wise. But he decides that he's going to take the job in Florida. Now, he's trying to say to me, you know, am I coming with him to Florida? I'm like, absolutely not. I have my career here. At the time, I knew no one in Florida. No, I'm not going with you to Florida. And I had broken up with him because I was like, I'm not doing a long distance relationship. I just don't want that for myself. Now, after we got married, I found out that he actually told his coworkers and others, his friends and stuff, that the breakup was mutual when it wasn't, right? Because he was crying these crocodile tears, these fake tears. In retrospect, they were fake tears. They were narcissist tears. When I told him that, look, I'm not moving to Florida with you. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not doing long distance. I have my career here. It is what it is. I think it was early February that he moved to Florida. Valentine's Day comes around 2022. Now, I think I'd gone out and I posted up like, you know, just in a cute dress or whatever. Who's calling my phone to find out if somebody took me out for Valentine's Day? My soon-to-be ex-husband. Mind you, I'm single, right? What did you think was gonna happen? Do you not think there is a line of men waiting to take me out? You're single, I'm single. It's none of your business. Why should I spend Valentine's Day alone, right? Like, you decided to move to Florida. I am living in New York. I'm gonna enjoy myself. You know what I'm saying? I tell him, look, you need to calm down and you need to focus on your life in Florida. There are a lot of baddies in Florida, right? Focus on the baddies in Florida. Let me live my life, right? Period. He's upset, he's not happy with it. It is what it is. Now, we didn't really talk for a while. I want to say like maybe about a month and a half, because I kind of cursed him out and I was like, look, you need to stop calling my phone. You need to leave me alone, like boundaries. He starts to weasel his way back in after a couple months of 2022 from the friendship angle. I started to post on TikTok in May. My first video that went viral on TikTok happened in the end of May. And in June of 2022, an anonymous account is created on Twitter. It has no posts. I'm still friendly with my soon-to-be ex-husband, right? He's still a friend to me, and that's that. I'm single in 2022. I'm focusing on myself. In August of 2022, I'm told by my boss that I'm being put up for early promotion. My soon-to-be ex-husband, at the time, I considered him to be one of my best friends because he always positioned himself to be like this source of support for me, and just somebody who really loved me, like, unconditionally. Now, he was one of the two people that I let know that I was being put up for early promotion. Unbeknownst to me at the time, that same week, that anonymous Twitter account made some tweets using screenshots from my TikTok account, tweeting my firm and FINRA. Now, FINRA is the regulatory body that oversees broker-dealers, etc. Again, there are two people that I told that I was up for early promotion. He's the only one who would have known to tag FINRA in those tweets in an attempt to bring me down or to get me fired or to mess up my chances of getting promoted. I don't find out about these tweets because I wasn't even tagged and I wasn't really on Twitter like that. I was called into the office by compliance at my job and they were telling me that, hey, there's this FINRA investigation going on because this random Twitter account made these tweets referencing your content and they tagged the firm and they tagged FINRA. They just told me, hey, just keep an eye out, you know, let us know if you have any idea who it could be. And they told me that they'd be doing their own kind of investigation as well. I remember my boss saying to me, go look into that, go figure out like what's going on there. And I just thought, okay, maybe it's just like some random hater. I just had no idea who could be behind this kind of account. Now, if I'm experiencing a certain type of harassment on the internet, I do loop in my lawyer just to get an assessment of like, what do you think this is? And I remember my lawyer saying to me upon reviewing the Twitter account and reviewing the tweet, he said, honestly, Christine, we've seen this before many times. This account was created specifically to try to bring you down. These tweets are laced with jealousy. This is a classic case of jealousy. And he actually asked me, did you get put up for promotion or something? Did you get a promotion? Because I've seen this a lot before, and it's clearly laced with jealousy. And he said, is there anyone you can think of who would be jealous about you getting the promotion? And I said, well, I only told 2 people. And those people, you know, in my mind, I was like, they would never be jealous of me. Plus, only one of those people would have known to tag my firm and to tag FINRA. And I remember asking my soon-to-be ex-husband, I was like, hey, did you tell anybody else? But he was so supportive. He was just like, oh my gosh, the fact that somebody would even do that to you, they're such a hater. You guys, this man was like praying with me. He was like, I want to pray with you against like the attacks of the enemy. It's not funny. Nothing about this is funny, by the way, but it's like, at this point, all I can do is laugh, right? Because I was so convinced that this man was for me, right? He was praying with me, right? Now I know that he was behind that account. He didn't want me to get that early promotion because he knew that if I got promoted, there's no way I would be moving to Florida with him. And he had to figure out a way to get me to move to Florida because he just had to have me. Here this man is praying with me, being like, you know, I just don't know why anybody would try to do that to you. And like, you just have all these haters now and whatnot. And he created this account in June of 2022 when he saw that like, okay, like her TikTok is growing. More people are gonna find her. So I gotta make sure by any means necessary that she doesn't find somebody better. He's telling me that, you know what, you're on the internet, you're on TikTok now, people can find your TikTok, so it's just probably somebody who hates on you. You've always had haters, it could be anybody. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, you're right, it really could be anybody at the end of the day. Now, nothing came from that investigation. I didn't get in trouble, I didn't get fired, but did those tweets mess up my chances for early promotion? Absolutely. So he was successful in his attempts. One thing that I did find out from my firm from this investigation process was that they had reason to believe that the person behind this account was a whistleblower. So they were a former employee and they were airing out their grievances while using me to do so. Now, January of 2023, I have a new challenge to focus on because the Black people at my firm have been getting underpaid now for 2 years. And we had clocked it the year before, but we were told that it was going to be corrected and we'd be made whole this current year, which was at the time 2023. That was not the case. In fact, it was even worse in 2023. Now, that kind of stuff doesn't sit well with me. And of course, I'm telling my soon-to-be ex-husband about what's going on because he is a friend of mine and he's very supportive. He's like, you know, trying to make sure that he could be there for me and just like support me in this time that I'm taking on this challenge of like pushing back against my firm. So one of the things that I do is I write a letter to the head of HR. Because of that letter that I wrote to the head of HR, an investigation was launched and they were like, yep, we messed up. People's pay needed to be revamped. Now, even though they fixed the pay of all of the Black employees that were hired through this program, it still wasn't the correct amount. We were still being significantly underpaid compared to our white peers for doing the same work. I was not happy with that solution because I knew that that was just them slapping a band-aid on a situation that literally needed surgery. So, you know, I lawyered up. One thing you're never going to do is you're never going to play with my money, especially when I worked for it. At this point in my life, I wasn't really going out. I was just focused on myself. I've now taken on this legal battle with a major Wall Street institution. I am literally drained and exhausted. I'm fighting for myself and others who are not even willing to fight for themselves, right? Because there are a lot of people on Wall Street and in corporate America who are just not willing to stand up for themselves. But here I am putting in the good fight. Now, at the time, I did go to spend some time in LA because I'm just actually mentally drained. And it was good because I think it was like a different type of isolation. But at the same time, my soon-to-be ex-husband used this opportunity to really weasel himself back in as a source of support for me. He would fly in from Florida, spend some weekends in LA with me. He was really just like this great source of support for me and convinced me to get back together with him. And I was like, honestly, like he gets it. He understands what I'm going through, you know? And at this point, this man knows me well. He knows my family dynamics. He knows my triggers. He knows a lot about me, right? So he knows exactly what to say to get back in my life. Now he starts talking about getting a ring and getting engaged somewhere around, I want to say May or June of 2023. Truth be told, I should not have gotten engaged in the mental state that I was in 2023, because I was so drained by this battle. I was so exhausted for having to fight for what was clearly like standard. Like the fact that I'm fighting for equal pay for Black people in 2023, it was just mind-boggling. You know what I'm saying? And just the back and forth with the legal situation, I was exhausted. But of course, the whole talks of engagement and all of that, and like just like my soon-to-be ex-husband being there for me and just being this great source of support, it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, like he's so sweet. Again, I'm kind of in a daze in 2023. I'm dealing with a whole legal battle, but I'm still excited because it feels like, oh my gosh, at the end of the day, this is the light at the end of the tunnel. We get engaged in August. Now, you know, once you get engaged, everybody's asking you, when is the wedding? When is the wedding? When is the wedding? So you have all this external pressure, and my family, my friends, everything. I'm a type A person, right? I didn't end up getting a planner for my wedding. I ended up planning it myself. So I'm completely caught up with planning my wedding. I'm still dealing with this legal battle. I have now moved to Florida. I still have my place in New York, but now I'm in Florida. Thankfully now I know like 2 couples in Florida. So I do have a couple people there, but I'm now in a different state. I'm still dealing with this legal battle. I'm here planning a wedding. I'm also
So he ended up getting her to move to Florida, right, like he wanted.
Because when you go up against a firm in Wall Street, like best of luck if you think you're gonna have a career in Wall Street after that. But also that experience left such a bitter taste in my mouth that I decided that I didn't want to work on Wall Street anymore. So I'd made my mind up that I was done with the industry. Now this legal battle, I'm not done with it until roughly February of 2024. And I also want to provide the context that I wanted to take this to litigation because the evidence was all there, the wrongdoing was there, and it would have been a case that would have really changed a lot of things for the industry and people underpaying Black people in the industry. But my soon-to-be ex-husband was a big advocate for me settling, because he was like, you know what? I've seen how drained you've been. I've seen how exhausted you've been, and, you know, just prioritize your peace and move forward. In retrospect, right, he just wanted me to, you know, get paid quickly and just move along. That's what he wanted me to do. If it were up to me, I probably would have litigated, and my lawyers were ready and willing to litigate. Now, one thing to note is even before we got engaged, this is before premarital counseling, we had gone through this book where we were just kind of like figuring out like, what do we want out of life? Does this all make sense? Does it make sense to get married? For example, one of those questions in that book was like, okay, how many kids do you want? And I remember saying, okay, like I want 2 to 3 kids. And he was like, oh yeah, I want 2 to 3 kids. Essentially what he did the entire time, I did not know this, but again, he is a great actor. He deserves an Oscar. He was mirroring me the entire time. He knew my family dynamics. He knew what I liked. He knew what I didn't like. And he was presenting himself to be the type of person that I would want in a husband. Another thing to note is 2023, he suddenly gets very bulked up, very muscular. Now, he was always athletic, but he was always on the slimmer side, right? 2023, he has bulked up, right? I'm like, okay, you know, what happened to you? He just has this newfound passion for the gym, I guess. I mean, he always went to the gym, but like, he was never doing all of that, like weight, and like, he wasn't eating that amount of protein and all of that. Now, after we got married, that is when the mask started to slip. So he would say things like, I have to go to the gym and have all this protein and eat all this food to look good for you and to be bulked up for you. And I'm like, look good for me? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to look like that, like you're the one who decided to bulk up like this, right? Like you decided to do this to yourself. I never told you to do that. So you always want to pay attention when it comes to dating someone. If you find that they're like transforming themselves to be someone to match you a little bit too much, right? And it's not organic, it's not natural, it's not something that they ever were. That is something that you need to pay attention to. At the time, I just thought, you know what? He bulked up. He has this newfound passion for the gym. It is what it is. I didn't know that someone with narcissistic personality disorder, they are going to mirror their target like crazy. And he had to bulk up in such a way and transform himself because he had to be seen as worthy of being my partner. But once we got married, he's complaining about the way that he has to eat all this protein and eat all this food for me. And I'm like, well, if you don't want to do something, you shouldn't do it. Like, it's not a requirement to be with me, you know? Like, this is something that you put on yourself. He has really deep abandonment wounds, right? And this is something I always encouraged him to work on. And it really showed itself in one particular instance. This was in July of 2024. He was going to get some food at this particular place that I don't like eating at. He was asking me what I wanted to eat. I was like, look, you know, I don't even eat from there. I don't know why you're asking me what I want. And I told him, like, look, I'm going to go home and I'm going to order something. And at the time we were out at this particular plaza, and it was going to be easier for him to just drive there, get what he wanted, drive back home. And for me, it just would have been easier for me to just Uber home and order what I wanted. So I told him, look, I'm just going to go home and Uber what I want. So I got out of the car and I was about to call my Uber on my phone. I kid you not, this man drives in front of me, wrestles my phone out of my hand with such force, so angrily that like I'm pushed, and he drives off in the parking lot. He makes a loop in the parking lot, actually, like a lunatic in anger. And at the time, I only had my personal phone. I didn't have my work phone. So I'm in the parking lot, no phone. He drives back around and I'm like, yo, what is wrong with you, sir? Like, what is wrong with you? He's like telling me that I can't just be walking out of the car on him. It's disrespectful. Again, abandonment wound triggered. That was the first, like, I've never seen him like that before. Narcissists, a lot of them have an abandonment wound. When I'm trying to address this with him and I'm trying to get him to take accountability, he's talking about the fact that he's doing all this stuff for my birthday. And I'm like, what does my birthday have to do with anything? I've now
All right, so I want to take a pause for the cause because I'm hearing this story. I have no idea. I'm not a psychologist for narcissists, but what I can tell you is they come in many forms, and this is just her experience with a narcissist. I've heard of mirroring before, but um, I think there's a difference between male and female narcissists because I'm hearing the same stuff I've once dealt with a person, like not wanting you to be successful, wanting you to follow their lead. And it's like, how do you want a man to be a leader, but then they got to turn around and follow everything you do? You know what I'm saying? So, like, the opposite of what she's saying is like the man was basically following her, mirroring her to get her to be attractive to him, attracted to him, or for him to be remain attractive to her. At the same time, a woman who's a narcissist, she won't mirror you, but she would pretty much just basically want you to do and like everything that she likes. Even if you don't like it, you're just like, so as a man, you like, whatever, I'll just go along with it. And men, we stupid. That's we just like, we don't really give a damn. We just be like, all right, yeah, it is what it is. Most of us is just laid back anyway, so we just gonna go do what our women say. But and we don't really understand those narcissistic tendencies that women have. As then they start to show themselves. But then, like, she's probably going through this at real time, in real time, and not really understand it. Because if everybody knew or understood narcissists while they in a relationship with a narcissist, then they would kind of see these uh, red flags. And of course, you don't never see it until after the fact. And you know, it is what it is. We've all been through it. Not we all. I don't know. A lot of y'all, because every time um, And every time we see a video, it's like somebody's a narcissist. So, all right, let's get to the next. We're going to continue this.
My birthday has nothing to do with this, right? Like, you're trying to love bomb me. You're trying to gaslight me. You're trying to manipulate me when you need to take accountability for your actions. So he does some semblance of fake accountability, and he says, he's going to be working on himself. It's not going to happen again. I want to add this in because I think this is very important for people who might be in a work environment similar to Wall Street. Because I had worked on Wall Street for years, right? I had interned on Wall Street my junior year of college. I returned full time. A total of 5 years is what I spent on Wall Street.
Also, I want to throw this in there before we go further because I almost forgot. Narcissists always make fake social media accounts. They have several fake social media accounts. They always follow you, and what they'll say is, "Oh, somebody else sent me this from social media." Girl, shut the fuck up. Don't nobody be watching my social media but you. So you watch it from a page that you don't want nobody to know that it's you, and I know this because I've seen you do it. And you get into the account and you log out of it. Once you got what the information you need, you log out of the account so nobody can see that you've actually either viewed their story or did anything. And they have secret folders. Yes, narcissists are sneaky devils. And the problem is, you'll see them do this for other people, and you'll be like, "Oh, that's neat that you know that," until they start doing it to you, and you be like, "Oh, this is crazy." Yeah, so.
Wall Street. But you have to understand that there are a lot of narcissistic personalities on Wall Street. And I had normalized narcissists. Like, the guy I worked with the last 2 years I was working on Wall Street, I worked with him the most, right? Straight up narcissist. But you have to understand that on Wall Street specifically, and I'm not talking about just corporate America, because there is a big difference between Wall Street and corporate America, right? It's a different personality type. And in order for you to be successful on Wall Street, you do have to have narcissistic traits. But again, there's a big difference between having narcissistic traits and having narcissistic personality disorder. In order for you to be successful in most spheres of life, you do have to have narcissistic traits. There is a healthy amount of narcissistic traits that one can possess. But when you have a full-blown personality disorder, where you've had a psychotic break from reality, that's when things are now getting very dangerous. Now, he starts to say some random things, and this is after we got married. He would say things like, "I get why the guys at the office pay for escorts and essentially pay for smecks and stuff like that." And I would be like, "Huh? I'm sorry, what kind of rhetoric is that? Like, our values are not aligned if you're saying stuff like that. And you never said anything like this prior to us being married. So like, where's this coming from?" He would just be like, "Oh, I was just like thinking about that." I'm like, okay. And, as a woman, that that's loser mentality, right? Because that if a man has to pay for connection with a woman, it just means that he's a loser. He does not know how to build a connection with a woman. And so it's a loser mentality, right? And so I had to clock him about it. And I was like, "Yo, like, I don't know where you're getting this rhetoric from, and I don't know why you're saying this stuff, but you need to check yourself." Another thing that he starts to say is, "I get why guys choose simple women over career women," because now he has an issue with the fact that I'm a content creator. And he's throwing shade at me being a content creator and working as much as I do. And he would also say things like, "People just don't know how hard it is to be an influencer husband." Okay. You knew what it was when you signed up, boo. Like, where's all of this coming from? Then he started to insert himself under the guise of helping me with my business, my influencer business. And he would always try to get me to accept like some low deals, some deals that didn't make any sense, when I knew my value and I knew my worth. And I was able to negotiate deals at like 4 times whatever rate he was trying to get on my behalf. And I was like, "Bro, what are you even doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you inserting yourself in my business? And why are you trying to get your wife paid less? And then he would throw shade about deals that I didn't take. A couple months ago, he was like, you know, you're the one who's turning down deals for 15K. And I'm like, huh? What's that supposed to mean? I'm not like you. I don't just take money for money, right? I understand that there's value to the work that I put out there, and I provide value to brands. And at the end of the day, this is my business. Why are you inserting yourself in it? And I essentially had to be like, look, respectfully, I need you to step away from inserting yourself into my business and what I'm doing. And then he would try to gaslight me and be like, you just don't value my opinion. You don't value my opinion. No, boo, you're trying to control me. You're jealous of me because you can't stand the fact that I could make one video for a brand and it's more than what you've earned in the entire month from your job. And instead of being happy for your wife and supporting your wife, you're trying to sabotage her career. Another thing that I didn't pick up on as a narcissistic trait is, I remember one time, like, I was crying and he got extremely angry with me. Like, he was so angered by the fact that I was shedding a tear. He started to raise his voice and yell at me. And that was when I was like, oh no, we need to get in counseling because something is wrong with you, sir. Now, I didn't know what it was at the time, but the therapist clocked it immediately. She said to him in that first session, she was like, do you understand what it means to have empathy? Because it feels like you don't understand empathy. He doesn't have the ability to be empathetic. It's this fake empathy. I never really understood that that was what was happening. So if he sees me crying, it gets him so angry because he's incapable of putting himself in other people's shoes. Narcissists lack empathy. Also, after we got married, he would constantly make degrading comments about women. He was really frustrated with the fact that women had to do so little in comparison to men. So for example, I remember him making a remark about the fact that my bridesmaids came into town before my wedding, like a couple days before, and they were able to hang out. And he was like, you know, my boys, you know, they had to come in like the day before. And he was like, you know, what do your bridesmaids even do? And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, like, why are you so mad that women don't have to do what men have to do necessarily? Like, why are you so upset that women and men have a different experience of life? Do you want to be a woman, sir? Because that's what it's giving. And another thing that really upset him that I found very strange was he didn't like that there were plus size models featured in Sports Illustrated. And I was trying to explain to him that, you know, representation matters. Women of all sizes need to be featured. People need to see bodies that look like them. His whole argument was like, men can't do the same thing. Women need to be held to the same standard as men. He's revealing to me, once we're married, just how misogynistic he is, which was something he hid very, very, very well before our marriage. And every single day, the mask is slipping more and more and more. And I had a trip, a solo trip with Virgin Voyages. The night before, he has a mental breakdown. He's telling me how unhappy he is with life, how unhappy he is with his job, how upset he is that he can't go on this trip with me and everything. And his whole goal was to make sure that I had a very unpleasant trip and that I was thinking about how unhappy he was the entire trip. That is something that narcissists do. They don't want you to have any fun or have any enjoyment without them. They hate that. In addition to the degrading comments he would make about women, he was always trying to change me into a housewife. I know I'm the meal prep queen. You gotta understand that when I brought meal preps to the internet, this was for the corporate girlies. There are a lot of business girlies, corporate girlies who follow me. When I worked on Wall Street, yes, I did meal prep, but now I don't have to. I've meal prepped for brands and I've shown people how to meal prep. And he has been a natural beneficiary of my meal preps. And also, he really needed them because the dude wasn't eating healthy. He wasn't having vegetables, he wasn't having fruits. And so he really needed those. Apart from that, he would try to pressure me and shame me for not cooking every single day. Now, I'm the type of person I cook when I want, but if I don't feel like cooking, I'm not gonna cook because I don't need to. And when it comes to cleaning, I have always outsourced my cleaning. When I lived in New York, I outsourced my cleaning. Unless I genuinely want to clean my space, that is just what I do. But you know what it was when you signed up, right? And we talked about this. It never gave housewife. It was never that. Now, if you're wondering, well, why are you staying with this man while he's saying all these things? It's because there's constantly this gaslighting and this love bombing that's going on. He's constantly reminding me of things that he's done for me. That is just a small portion of the narcissistic abuse that I've experienced during this marriage. This is not the only reason why I'm filing for divorce. I came to find out some dirt on this man and what he's been doing behind my back for a while now. Out of respect for him, like, even though he doesn't deserve my respect, out of human decency, I'm not going to say it on here, but just know it is egregious. That's all I have to say on the topic. And I don't have to drag him, I don't have to shame him for what I found out, because one thing I know for sure is that everything done in the dark, it has to come to light at some point.
Oh, I want one quick little pause. I think she was telling us without telling us,
right? Like,
because like all of the stuff that she was saying about him hating women and him hating plus size women and all this other stuff, I think she was leading on to something. But I guess maybe she'll say it, maybe she won't, maybe she'll hint more at it, but we're gonna find out. So let's keep going.
Now, when I found out what I found out, I asked him, I said, hey, is there anything else you're lying to me about? I gave him the opportunity to be honest with me, because at the end of the day, I've been loyal, I've been faithful, I've honored our marriage. I meant my vows when I said them. So I gave him the opportunity to be honest with me, and he still couldn't do that. In fact, his response was, I'm so focused on trying to get you a Range Rover, because he knows that Range Rover is like one of my favorite cars ever. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? What does a Range Rover have to do with the lies that you've been telling me? That is classic narcissistic response. So I informed him that I would be filing for divorce and that it would be amicable and that we'd just do a clean split, sell the house, split the proceeds. What's yours is yours, what's mine is mine. Narcissists hate when they're no longer in control. And if you try to leave, they're gonna punish you for it. So once I let him know that I would be filing for divorce, he went into our joint account and he transferred money into his personal account. He wiped it clean. That included a New York tax return tied to my income because he didn't earn any New York income in 2024. He transfers that to his personal account. And that is considered financial misconduct. If somebody lets you know that they're filing for divorce and you go into the joint account and you transfer money out and you wipe it clean, you have committed financial misconduct. Apart from that, he refused to release my phone lines because we were on a family plan. T-Mobile had called him. It's super easy for him to release my phone lines. He refused to release it because he wanted to surveil who I was texting, who I was calling. The only way I got him to release my phone lines was when I sent his mother a text updating her to let her know that I was aware of what was happening. Within an hour of me texting his mom, he released my phone lines. And then back to the financial misconduct with him taking out my New York tax return and other money from this joint account. His lawyer reprimanded him. His own lawyer reprimanded him for doing that. Like, you just don't do that. When he withdrew that money, he was hoping that that would put me in a tough situation. But dude, you married the finance baddie. Do you think I don't have money in other accounts? Do you think I was relying on this joint account? Do you think I tell you about all of my income when I clocked that you were jealous of me and trying to sabotage my career? That is standard classic behavior of a narcissist. When you try to leave them, they're going to try to financially abuse you, smear your name as well, because what he's been doing is talking to my friends and family, trying to create a narrative about me. They're going to try to keep anything hostage. They're going to try to surveil you. I caught him trying to log into the security cameras last week after I changed the passwords. So that is just standard, just narcissistic behavior. Now, in an effort to, I guess, get back at me.
So I assume this is currently ongoing.
And after
because he's still
conducting
trying.
financial misconduct and I called him out, he goes ahead and he files for divorce. What this does is it complicates things for him, because given that he has now filed the petition, we have to respond to that petition. And when we respond to that petition, unfortunately, all of his dirt gets put out there. And so what little dignity he could have walked away from this marriage with has now gone out of the window. Again, I wanted an amicable and a peaceful divorce. I really didn't want all of this nonsense. But with narcissists, chaos is how they thrive. They have to create drama. If I were him, knowing what I do know, I would have chosen to walk away from this marriage with dignity, whatever fragment of dignity he has left. But he chose narcissistic collapse, right? He chose ego, and he chose to be childish. Now, could I have gotten on the internet and pretended everything was okay and put on a show for you guys? Absolutely. I can't do that and sleep well at night, and that is just not a part of my brand. If I'm telling you ladies to want better for yourselves, if I'm telling you to do better for yourself, if I'm telling you to stay healthy and wealthy, that is all a mentality, right? That is a mantra. So you have to want better for yourself. You have to walk away from the things that no longer serve you. And especially if you were literally a victim of a real life Joe Goldberg, like I was. Now, there are a couple people on IG who said, oh, you got married for content. And I wish I got married for content, honestly, because it cost me so much. I would love to get my 75K back from the wedding, honestly. That would have been invested. I would have had more money now. I would love to get back all the money that I've invested into this house, all the closets that I paid for, all the furniture that I've purchased, literally everything. I would love to get my money back. This has been such a loss for me. For you to get on the internet and try to think that people get married for content, I know I met my vows. My soon-to-be ex-husband, on the other hand, he didn't mean a word that he said. He was literally a real life Joe Goldberg. But let this be a reminder that you will rise again. I'm currently in the process of getting out of this marriage. We will see how my rise again goes. I hope this is helpful, and whenever I'm able to share more information, I will. I know the psychiatrists and the psychologists and the therapists will meet me in the comments and explain a lot of what I put down. And listen, it is never too late to walk away. Just like in finance, if you make a bad investment, cut your losses. It's not your fault. You looked at the financials, right? You looked at what was under the hood. You thought everything was good, but they put on a good show, right? They doctored the books. That happens sometimes. But you cut your losses when you recognize that what you're dealing with is garbage. If you take nothing else away from these videos, I hope that you learn to put yourself first and honor yourself and honor your boundaries, no matter the cost. Stay healthy and wealthy. Now, apparently Black women don't have. So I got married at 28 and I'm divorcing at 29. A lot of the comments I've seen have shown me that not everyone has watched the full 5 parts and actually comprehends the difference between having narcissistic traits and narcissistic personality disorder. I would love for the psychologists, the psychiatrists, and the therapists to meet me in the comments and really explain to people, because a lot of you have been comparing this to your previous relationships and talking about seeing red flags and how I should have noticed this and I should have noticed that. And even before I get into the whole red flag argument,
I'm about to say exactly what I said. You never know until it's over.
Others, right? I don't live my life trying to control outcomes. I don't live my life trying to play God. I don't do that. So when you're a person who operates in truth and empathy and love, when people are doing certain things to you, you don't really recognize that it's manipulation. You don't look for the evil in others when you're not an evil person. As a person who operates from a place of truth, the last thing on my mind was that this person would be trying to do me wrong. And that's what happens to a lot of us. I think if you're used to manipulating others, if you're used to controlling others, the signs would have been glaring for you, right? Because that is who you are. But that is not my character. It blows my mind that somebody would try to control somebody else. It blows my mind that somebody would try to lie to determine an outcome, especially when it comes to love and relationship and marriage. Truthfully speaking, I don't operate from that mind space. So when people say stuff like, well, you should have blocked him after you guys broke up, 2 things on this. First of all, if you break up with somebody and it's an amicable breakup, why do you need to block them? especially since this person has shown that they're respectful and they've always shown themselves to be a decent individual. I've been in other relationships and I never had to block them. I don't need to block the people I've broken up with. When I'm moving forward, I'm moving forward. I don't need to block you, right? And just so you know, when you're dealing with a person with narcissistic personality disorder, I'm not just talking about narcissistic traits. They are going to create burners. I remember specifically when he moved to Florida, I told him on the phone when I had to curse him out, I was like, look, stop calling my phone or I'm going to block you. He heard my warning and he stopped. And what he did was he unfollowed me on Instagram. I unfollowed him back and he was pretending that he had moved on with his life, but he was watching me from burners. So he was creating a facade. At the time, I didn't have that many people on Instagram, so I could see who was watching me. And his burners weren't even like proper burners because it was very clear who was watching my stories. Also, for you to get in the comments and tell people who might be dealing with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder to block them is very, very dangerous. These people have a level of obsession that's not normal. You're thinking about your ex who might have been obsessed with you a little bit. This is a next level of obsession. It's very meticulous, it's very calculated. So you're actually better off not blocking people with narcissistic personality disorder, because what happens is once they feel like they've lost access to you, they're going to go to extreme lengths to get to you. Hindsight is so easy when you are not the one being manipulated. If you've never actually been in a relationship with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder, you don't have any grounds to say anything on this topic, honestly, because it's not the same thing as having narcissistic traits. And I'm gonna keep repeating myself when it comes to that because I keep seeing these projections in the comments and you guys don't comprehend, right? And I get it. If you've never been there, you would not understand. A lot of them are actually sociopaths and psychopaths as well. So you're not dealing with a regular Joe here, okay? You're dealing with Joe Goldberg. For those of us who operate from a place of love and kindness, and those of us who are truly empathetic, we're not looking for the evil in people. Like, that's just not what we do. Like, I don't have the time to be looking at people's behavior that closely. I genuinely have never had the time. I've been building my career. I've been working on myself. Do you think I'm looking at every single detail and scrutinizing it, especially when somebody has put on such a great mask for me? No, I'm not doing that, because at the end of the day, I would never do that to somebody. I would never seek to manipulate. I would never seek to control, right? I'm not playing God in anybody's life. So you got to understand that when this happens to people, it happens to people who are not looking to manipulate others. So don't sit here and shame people in the comments for missing the signs when they were clearly manipulated. I do want to point out one other behavior that is a good telltale sign that you're dealing with a narcissist. It's something I did not understand at the time. After he was in Florida for a while, he told me things weren't really working out with the young women that he met in Florida, and he said they were very impressed with me. And I was very confused because I was like, why do they know about me? I don't go around when I'm dating telling my new date about my ex. Like, that's so irrelevant. Apparently what he was doing was he was telling these women that he was dating that he used to date me. I asked him, I said, well, are you telling them about me? Why am I a topic of discussion for you and your new dates? And he would say, oh no, you're on TikTok, they've seen you, they follow your content, which is not necessarily true because my content is niche, right? In my head, I'm like, well, perhaps they saw a video of mine on TikTok, but how would they know that you and I dated unless you brought it up? So what a lot of these narcissists will do is they will make sure that the next person they're trying to date is aware that, hey, I dated her.
They just
it helps them to come off as more legitimate.
They just got away. They knew it.
Can see, oh, okay, well, he dated her. She's a bad.
He showed different signs of narcissism to them, and they got away.
And of course, we know that there are some women out there who will date you just because they know that a baddie dated you. And they're not necessarily dating you because they like you. They're dating you so that they can feel on the same level as you. What I do take accountability for is not trusting my gut from the very beginning, because everything looked right about him. He presented so well. My family loved him, my mother, my aunts, my friends. My friends even said to me, nobody you've dated has loved you so much. My parents were convinced, my family, you understand? So even when something felt off in my gut, I was listening to all of the voices around me because I trusted that they knew better than me because they were older. I remember raising specific things actually to my family and friends, and they would tell me, oh no, that's just the devil trying to destroy what you have going on. And they would tell me things like, oh no, the devil hates marriages, so that's just the devil putting something in your head. A lot of people will use religion to control you and to keep you bound to something that was never built on truth in the first place. Trust your gut. And lastly, there have been a lot of men in the comments talking about the fact that women can be narcissists as well. And that is absolutely true. We never denied that, right? My platform is primarily for women. And so that is who I speak to on my platform. There are totally female narcissists. And so if you have a story to share about dealing with a female narcissist, I encourage you to share it in the comments. I'm just speaking to my audience because we are primarily women here. For everyone saying, don't put your business out there, keep it private, it is what it is. Again, I have a platform. At the end of the day, thank God, I am the only one hurting from this situation. And if my pain serves the purpose of inspiring hundreds of thousands of women who follow me across all my platforms, then it was for a reason greater than myself. And that's what I've come to realize. Yeah, it sucks for me, but I'm gonna be okay. I was flourishing when he found me, and he wouldn't leave me alone at any cost. I'm the one who went through this horrible situation. And so many women have benefited from my transparency, and I'm so happy for that, because at the end of the day, I know that this was bigger than myself. This is my platform, and I know God gave it to me for a reason. So I'm not going to hide and pretend that things are okay. I'm gonna be transparent. That is me stewarding the community of women that I've been blessed with. Again, if you are somebody in a similar situation, don't let anybody shame you for missing the signs. You're a good person. You wouldn't manipulate others. You don't think like an evil person. Of course, you're not gonna look at other people's actions and immediately see the evil in them, because that's just not who you are. And if they wanna shame you for being a loving and empathetic person, let them do that. Stay healthy and wealthy. So I got.
All right, everyday people. We got two more parts. But I want to say something because I'll tell you, boy, like by the end, I'll be forgetting everything I want to talk about. By the end, by the time I get to the end. So can a man pursue a woman like enough? Because it seems like he pursued the hell out of her, and she fell for him, or she already had some connection with him. But the fact that he kept being persistent and like trying to date her and stuff, and he finally won her over. But then, like, I don't know, is it something with certain women, or do you just have to be like that? You got to be that guy for her, because if you try to pursue a woman so much, she might block you, or like, like, I don't know. Girls, go look at your DMs. Look at the man who sent you 1,000 messages like, "Oh, you so beautiful. Hey, good morning, Queen. Grand Rising. All that good stuff." And y'all just ignore that. But here it is, a guy does the same thing, and she basically dates him. So are we gonna be like, yeah, I do need to get a notebook to write my, but like what is a man supposed to do? Is a man supposed to be like, not try to pursue her as much, or just be, yeah, a lot of women are now saying, oh, I don't like a nonchalant man. Shoot, most of us are nonchalant because, hey, if we act too aggressive, then it's this way. Or if we act too, we try to learn and understand a woman when you try to date a woman, you try to see what she like. And then at some point now, it's called a narcissistic trait where we're trying to mirror a woman. We just be like, man, I mean, if you like it, I like it. I ain't gonna try to, I'm not trying to marry you, but I like sushi too, or I want 3 kids too. Although I already got 5, what's another 3? You know what I'm saying? Like, at some point, you know what I'm saying? Y'all want a man to pursue you. You just not that man. Because if you pursuing a woman and she don't like reciprocate you and try to entertain you, entertaining her or in her inbox, then that's just not the woman for you. So just move on. But apparently it works for some people because it worked. Last part, let's get to it.
I got married at 28 and I'm divorcing at 29. Part 7. For those of you bringing up forgiveness and reconciliation, I need you to understand that I am actually a very forgiving person. I understand that I don't need to take revenge on anyone. I have never needed to do that because I understand that in this life, you reap what you sow. Anyone who's ever wronged me, they have suffered the consequences, and I've seen it with my own eyes because God has never played about me. But what you need to understand is that I have extended a level of grace in this situation that most people wouldn't. If you really knew what this man was doing behind my back, you would be like, girl, you're giving him that much grace? Again, that is just me being a decent human being trying to preserve what little dignity he has left, even though he truthfully doesn't deserve it. And to the men in my comments talking about women think they're so perfect and women are so evil for wanting a divorce, if you truly knew what he was doing behind my back, you would not be defending him. I promise you. You would pull back your comments very swiftly. You would. Because I really don't think you would want to be caught defending that type of behavior. Now, speaking about narcissism, and I'm speaking directly to the women right now because, again, my platform is primarily for women. If you are in a relationship with a narcissist, I need you to understand that the core of narcissism is self-hatred and shame. Do you understand what I'm saying? The core of a true narcissist, someone with narcissistic personality disorder, the core of it is self-hatred and shame, okay? A man who hates himself and has shame about who he is will not protect you. He is going to lie to you and he's going to betray you. And he will look you in the face and tell you that he loves you every single day. He will try to convince you that nobody will ever love you more than him. That is not real love. That is his twisted version of love, filtered through shame and denial. And that version of love, it will never keep you safe. These men know who they are at the core. They do a great job of putting on a show. The mask will start to slip once you're married or once you're locked in with them on some level where they feel like you're not going to go anywhere. Usually you've gotten a house with them, as in my case. You're married, as in my case. And for some women, they have kids with them. They know who they are at the core. They're just in denial about it. They're often living double lives because they're not comfortable with their true identity. I'm telling you this because I've lived it. Our couples therapist clocked it immediately. And that's when I was still in denial about the fact that he could be a narcissist. I was still believing the lies. He had been going to his own individual therapist. But what you need to understand is that individual therapy does not help people with narcissistic personality disorder. They manipulate the therapists. And therapists can only work with what you give them. So if you don't give them truth, they're not going to be able to help you. People with narcissistic personality disorder, they perform, they charm, they lie. They don't even tell themselves the truth. If you lie to yourself, you can never be truthful with others. And before you hop in the comments trying to play devil's advocate and defending a man that you don't even know, I want you to ask yourself this question. What would be so egregious that a woman like me, who got married in front of millions, who's always preached marriage, I've never been for hookup culture, ever. What would be so egregious that I would decide to make this decision publicly? I've never been reckless with my platform, so I want you to really consider that. What could it really be that would make me say enough is enough and I want out of this marriage? And again, for the men and women who are in the comments saying I must have gone into this marriage knowing that I wanted a divorce to get something from this man, consider this. I am the finance baddie. I know all about prenups. I chose not to get one because I believe that marriage is for life. I got into this marriage not intending to divorce. Yes, he is a high earner, but I've always made more money than him. And the tax returns show it. So who do you think a prenup would have benefited more? Additionally, in my industry, there's no cap on what you can earn. It's totally up to you. So who stood to lose more in this situation? Who is more likely to get alimony in this situation? What would it take for a woman like me to leave? And not just leave, but leave with integrity, choosing to not expose all of the details, even though it would be well within my rights to do so. Consider that. Again, I'm choosing to be a decent human being and to preserve his dignity. I have the receipts. My lawyers have the receipts. Why am I giving him the grace that he doesn't deserve? Because I am not him. At the end of the day, I know the truth will be exposed And it doesn't have to be me who exposes it, because the truth always comes out in the end. A lot of women have left comments about being stuck in situations like this and not having the means to get themselves out of it. And you've asked me to put together some sort of financial guide or some sort of workshop to really help you get yourself out of the situation. I now understand for myself why a lot of people stay in marriages, because divorce is actually very expensive. Every week I send thousands of dollars to my lawyer. I'm going to be working on something to help you prepare yourself in case you ever get into a situation like this. If you are in a situation like this should help you get out of it. But in the meantime, if you are dealing with somebody who wants you to stop working, especially if you were an ambitious and career-oriented person, I want you to be very careful. I want you to be very critical of what they might be trying to do. Some people use that as a means to trap you. It's not protection for some people. Depending on the person that you're dealing with, it could be a trap, right? It could be a means to control you. So I want you to be very, very careful. And lastly, to anyone who's been betrayed on this level, men or women, I don't want you to be discouraged. Remember, it wasn't Peter who brought Jesus to the cross, it was Judas. Betrayal often serves the purpose of waking you up. So cry if you need to, but you can't stay there. You have to channel that pain into your purpose. So in the gym, in your business, in your healing, whatever that might be, let your results speak for you. Let your elevation haunt the people who try to destroy you. There has not been a single person who has betrayed me who has not ended up regretting their decision. And it's not because I got revenge. It's because they had to sit there and watch me become everything they tried to break. So you don't stay stuck in betrayal. You use it. You let it light a fire under you, and you let it remind you of who you are. And then you get to work, because nothing haunts a Judas more than watching the woman he tried to destroy step into everything he was never man enough to handle. Stay healthy and wealthy. I got married at 20.
She ain't never lied, dog. She ain't never lied, man. I tell you what, man. It be people, you be in a relationship, and I've never been the one to just like, I've always like leveled up in life. Like, I've been down to the bottom, so it was only one way to go. It was up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I remember a time being with someone and I didn't realize how crazy this was and how much evil this person had for me. And I was like, man, I can't figure out life. Like, I'm over here working these stupid ass jobs, and I'm like, I can't get a good job because I got felonies. I'm not making no money, but I found out about the college scheme. College is a hustle. If you go to college, you can get financial aid. You can also apply for grants, and you can get money, right? So I was like, until I can figure it out, I'm just gonna go to college. Now, people might say, well, I don't know. Now I don't know if this is still going on, but I'm gonna tell you what. I used to make about ten to $12,000 in 2 semesters, so like $6,000 every. And most people don't make, get $6,000. And I'll probably make a little bit more than that. Probably about 8,000, close to $8,000 from grants and uh, what's it called, financial aid. And I'm not talking about taking a loan, but anyway. So I used to do that, right? And then also you get money on your taxes. You get money on your taxes. See, y'all don't know that. You get money on your taxes, so not only do you get grants and other financial aid, or scholarships, that's what it's called, grants and scholarships, and then you get money back on your taxes. So, boom, doing that. And the person who I was with at the time, they was like, I think you should quit school and go work in the oil field. And if anybody know about the oil field, they work you to death. but the market is like up and down, so you could be working hard as hell for 6 months, and then you ain't got a job for the other 6 months. So what you really making all that money just to, if you financially responsible, you can save your money and not work for the other 6 months until the market changes and they start bringing people back to work. So and again, this was all around the recession back in like 2008, 9, 10, around that, or no, about 2010, 11. And this person used to just tell me, "Oh, you need to do this and do this." And I'm like, man, this person don't know what they talking about. And that person used to just put me down, and like, they used to be like, why does she even feel like this? And so we eventually like broke up or whatever. But about a year later or so, we meet up because I'm like, I still got feelings for this person. She spent a block. She want to do this narcissist shit that this lady talking about that her boyfriend, her husband was doing, soon to be ex-husband. Man, this chick told me, I was only telling you to quit school because I never graduated high school. And I was like, man, so you wanted me to quit because it made you feel bad. Right, bruh? So from that point on, I never liked her ever again. That burned my soul. I was like, you really was trying to get me to fail because you was uncomfortable with me being successful in something that you failed in. And it's not even that bad. Like, go back to school, get a GED, and go to college. Like, I could have helped you, but no. Instead, you wanted to try to put me down. So I was like, oh, okay. So that's, man, I got other stories like where I was with people and I just like, and speaking of finances, like, man, I got an accounting degree in business management, and accounting is my major, business management is my whatever, the secondary thing. Anyway, I was about to get I'm a few credits shy of my master's in accounting. So I being in these classes and places with people and being able to talk to certain people, I started learning about finance. And I started learning about, like, I wasn't financially responsible. I just learned about it. And so I learned different tips and tricks of like saving money and getting, like, paying off bills and stuff like this. And so I've got myself out of debt several times. But when I was with somebody and I was like, for whatever reason, I can't get out of debt because this person is trying to use the amount of money they make to keep me financially broke. And because me, I'm a man, so I'm like, I'm not trying to have my woman just always spending money on me. So I'll take the tab and stuff. And I'm not financially, I'm like, I know I can't afford this, but this person wants this. And they want this because, and they could probably go get it themselves, but they want me to do it. And they, and they'll just say certain stuff like, uh, don't worry, I know you don't got it. I'll get it. Like saying shit like that that'll make it be like, nah, I could do this. Like, why is she, my ego manipulating you through your ego and making you feel like, oh, you ain't got it. So to make you spend it, and knowing, like, if that person was really for you, they would make sure that you was leveling up your life and getting out of debt, but then having the savings and all this stuff. And it's just like, and I didn't understand that. But then when I started to see it, and when I started to see it, what this person was doing, and I started communicating to this person, like, look, what you're doing is keeping me broke. I don't want to be broke. And when I started making a little extra money, it was like, then the the pressure, that person will put the pressure on about spending money and having to how much you got to spend, and and where you should spend this money. And the money went from, oh, I need from like $200 to now $1,000. It's like, damn, you would have never asked me for $1,000 because you got it. So yeah, yeah. So that's you just gotta see it. And then when you get away from that person, when you get away from a narcissist, you see it even more, because now that person don't have control over you, and you like, oh, you really trying. You really want to destroy my life. Now you really want to hate me. Now you really want to try to embarrass me. Now you really want to try to make this public. Now you really want to try to, like, because that's what they do. Like, they so, instead of just like walking away, and just like, being just because if y'all don't have no ties together, just walk away. But instead, they do stuff. They follow you on different social medias with fake accounts. They reach out to they find a girl you like, and they try to, talk to her and convince her that you're a narcissist and stuff like that. And then just stuff like that. And it's just like, man, at the end of the day, everybody got to grow up. Everybody got to move on. But until that person feels that realizes that they are no longer a part of your life. Oh, let me tell y'all, I just seen Brian Ghost put CD and savings bond. I have CDs for my kids. I put money in there every 6 months because that's when they mature. Every 6 months, they make a little bit of money, and then I have money market accounts. They make very little money, and I'm just like, what the fuck? But don't have your money in the savings, because that makes you no money at all. Just a regular savings. And so I'm about to purchase a trust for my kids, because I'm doing something for them, for you know something for them. But the thing is, you have these accounts, right? And I realized I've made more money in an IRA. I've made more money in an IRA in a little bit of over 6 months than with less money. Mind you, with way less money, I've made more in my IRA in 6 months than I have in any of my savings. If you add up all my CDs, all my money market account, which is not low, it's not low. They are not low, but the money that I made in the IRA is unbelievable, and I ain't lying. And I invest in cryptocurrency, and just like the other day, I made like $500 in like 30 minutes, and then cashed out on it, then went and bought some more. So, is it an education class? Yes, it is an education class. I mean, it's not really an education class. It's really just, I mean, she's a finance baddie. So I just, started talking about finances. But I got a accounting degree. But I say all this to say this: when you start getting money, learn how to save it. And regardless if you're in a relationship or not, you're gonna see a person who is jealous of you. They gonna hate that you're able to create these accounts, that you're able to save, that you're able to create more money. So get on Robinhood, man. Get on Robinhood. Matter of fact, send me a text message so I can get my little $500 for referring people to Robinhood. Get on Robinhood. You can start an IRA. You could put at least $6,000 in there a year. If you make it, try to put it at least 500 a month, and that'll get you your 6,000 a year. Or if you even got 100 a month, that's still $1,200 a year. Mind you, I'm telling you, I've made more with less in my IRA than any other account, and that's just because of the way. That's just because of how much I got to put in there. But my other accounts, I can put as much as I want to. So it's like you got to put the money somewhere. So put it where you can, at least gain something. Don't just put it in leave it in your savings account. Not to tell all my mama business, but she had a nice chunk of change in her savings account. That mug over 2 years got $8. I was like, oh no. So we started the IRA with that money. Okay. But she didn't know. If you don't know, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know, you'll run into that situation. So at least now y'all know. So everyday people, let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. Thank y'all for joining. Appreciate the mods. Appreciate all the everyday people for coming through and showing love, man. Check out Christine Elizabeth, the finance baddie. Link is down. Her is down in the description on TikTok. I think I'll put a link to these videos so y'all can see it and y'all can follow up, man. Because women, here y'all go, just finance baddies. Absolutely, Brian. You gotta have 5 kids. Got more money than me and hey, me too. I swear, well, they ain't got more money than me, but that's why I started my trust, or I'm starting my trust, so I can start putting stuff back for them because I can't, you know what I'm saying? I can't take it with me. Look at that. Everyday people, like, comment, and subscribe. I'm gonna holler at y'all later. Peace.